Steve, that's fair. Oh, God, look at what I've done. You know, I guess I've grown accustomed to Cameron handling the lights in the morning while I'm doing the everything else. But good morning. Okay. So I see Sean's with us. Steve, Jamie, good morning, gentlemen. Paul's with us. Morning, Paul. Good to see you. It's balls o'clock in the morning over where Paul's hiding out. There's Danny. Good morning, sunshine. Good morning. Okay, good morning. So Cam's dealing with some stuff with his car. He's out talking to our mechanic Shay, who, by the way, guys, for any of you who haven't met our guy Shay, the mechanic that we use, Shay is one of those Southern boys, one of those good old boys that he has the Southern accent that's so thick that if you don't know him and you're just talking to him, you're just gonna, wow, who is this hillbilly? Yeah, the man's got a master's in engineering, mechanical engineering. He's brilliant, and he's just one of them butterbean good old boys. Love him to death. But anyway, so Cameron's out getting his little blue car some love from our good old mechanic, Shay Kirkpatrick. So, this morning, of course, I wouldn't go so far as to call you a gentleman, Your Majesty. I remember that one time I suggested to you that I might consider going green to gold, and you told me it'll be okay, boy. It's just a little bit of prostitution. And that is why I was never an officer in the United States Army. So, speaking of the Army, that experience and my opinion of the military and the missions of the military are among the many things in my life that have colored my opinion of police officers, not least of which personal dedication to the Constitution. And so what we're going to be talking about this morning on Twitter, the word cowards is trending. And I'm going to get into why it's trending a little bit. And we're going to talk about police and some of the problems with police officers, but more importantly, how the problems with police officers bolster the argument for Second Amendment absolutism. And when I say Second Amendment absolutism, here's what I mean in particular. I am arguing that to precisely the full extent that the founders have clearly articulated they intended the Second Amendment to be respected, activists should insist around the world that the right to keep and bear arms not be infringed. We've seen recently in the Ukrainians were not an armed populace in the way that the U.S. is. And the Russians came in. Now, we don't have to take sides in the Russia-Ukraine debate to recognize the martial reality of the troops on the ground there. So, you look at Russia and Ukraine, there are no good guys here. It's all just a bunch of commies killing Nazis and vice versa. You know, commies, Nazis, but I repeat myself, they're the same thing. So you got commies killing commies. But the fact is that the Ukrainians were not an armed people. The Russians came in, became a problem, engaged in an invasionary war. And an almost immediate response was that the Ukrainian government began handing out select fire AK-47s to the citizens of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky was very clear. All you need is identification that says you are a Ukrainian and that you want to join the fight. And then he changed his tune. He said, screw the identification. If you show up and say, I want to kill me some Russians, then we'll hand you a select fire AK-47. There are Americans who got on the birds and went over to the Ukraine precisely because Volodymyr Zelensky said, hey, you remember that $1 billion that Joe Biden threatened to withhold? Well, we're buying guns with it. And then, of course, the United States sent another $40 billion over to buy more guns for those people. So it's very clear what the fact of the matter is. The United States government is not against guns. It's against you having guns. Joe Biden isn't against people having guns. He just wants his slave caste unarmed. Right? So, what we're seeing, there's this video that I want to show you guys real quick. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Well, they broke my F-bomb barrier today. You see these cops over here. Okay, this is while the Uvalde shooting situation is ongoing. And these officers have tackled a parent. Right? These cops have their tasers out and are standing down waiting to engage while they're actively using their tasers and tackling parents to prevent the parents from entering the building to save their own children. Now, this is not a completely straightforward thing. Okay? There are a couple of angles of nuance here that I want to cover. Morning, sunshine.
Morning. Hey, so...
Hang on.
Well, no, you don't need to hear me. They need to hear me.
Oh, well, talk to them while I get my ears in.
No, I'm just going to bolster a point that you made when you talk about the Founding Fathers' intent with regard to firearms. I believe it was Federalist Paper number 46, where the argument was made, the thing that made America different from Europe is Americans had guns.
Yes.
Like, just straight up.
Yep.
Oh, why was it easy for them to say, yeah, I think we're done with kings?
Yep.
Says who? Says my musket and my can.
Oh, creep shot. So, okay.
Yeah, if you want to go back to... No, you're only allowed to have what they had in the 1770s. Okay, if that's how you want to play the game, but I don't think you realize what you're asking for.
Right. So, on the ground, I was not there, so I do not know what the exact situation was. Now, when you've got an active shooter in a target-rich environment, an immediate entrance, an immediate insertion is difficult to achieve, okay? If you don't know where the shooter is, you can easily be running your men into a fire line with just blind. So I can understand some hesitance. Now, apparently these officers were stood down waiting for an hour while this guy rampaged. So my understanding for your nuanced situation and tactical concerns goes only so far. An hour? Boys, you can't tell me he didn't walk in front of a window in that hour. And so I can understand not rushing in, but an hour was more than enough time for a competent set of operators to quietly enter multiple points, maintaining communication over throat mics, and surgically remove a high-value target. That's not hard.
So where's the line on that? So, because I totally understand you can't wait forever because kids are being murdered, and I totally understand you can't show up and kick in the first door you find without any intel. But, like, you're on the ground. You're the one who's in charge of the op, and you've got, I don't know, half a dozen guys that have got at least some level of skill from kicking indoors with Mossbergs. How long do you wait? At what point do you just go, no, fuck it, I'm walking in?
Okay, so the correct answer is, for one, you're going to do this with more than a half a dozen guys. Seriously, that's an important factor here, because you're going to get on the ground. You're going to assess the situation as rapidly as you can, And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to send minimum 2-man teams to cover every entry and exit point and immediately begin infiltration. At that point, you will have the remainder of your forces preparing for a more kinetic entry if that ends up being necessary. But while you're prepping that possible kinetic entry, though, when you're talking about one shooter, you're talking about one active shooter in a target-rich environment. You're gonna have your active kinetic forces preparing for a more aggressive kinetic shot. But I can almost guarantee you that if your 2-man teams are competent at all, they'll have him before you have a chance to execute that more kinetic maneuver.
Okay, I understand that, but we're talking like worst case scenario. You roll up to a school with an active shooter situation where...
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, you're not necessarily going to have more than 10 or 12 people, period.
How many entrances and exits does the school have?
Well, like the school around the corner from us has got at least a half a dozen, probably
Correct.
More.
That's 12 men. 2-man teams.
I said at least
every
half
door.
a dozen.
No, I know, but let's go with half a dozen. That's 12 men. That's 2 per door. Go. If you can't cover every door, you cover what you can. But as far as the sheer number of officers, there were quite a lot of officers on the ground there. I don't have a good picture to illustrate it, I guess, but there were a shitload of cops on the scene. There were cops from the local PD, local sheriff's department, border control, all that. So there were plenty of cops there.
Okay, so basically your answer is as soon as you've got enough boots on the ground for 2-man teams for all entrances, you go.
Alex says lock them down to 1 entry/exit point. That's not quite. Now, a good rapid maneuver early on, especially if you don't have enough men to enter all the entry points, because I'm not talking about clearing a small building. I'm talking about clearing a large complex. You do that with as large a force as you can bring to bear. But as far as lock them down to 1 entry point, you're going to send enough guys around that if you can't cover all the entry/exit points, you're going to throw a chain on where you can to prevent the use of that. And if it's probable that your target can squirt past while you're in operation, you might just throw a chain on after you get in, because the point is containment and elimination. But no, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not talking about hardening the target. I'm talking about taking the building after the active shooter's already inside, Alex. Which, guys, I'll tell you a few things about that. It's fast, and it's more fun than you should be allowed to have.
So Legion says it would have been better to just let parents rush in with their bare hands and teeth. They would do the needful. Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And then Common Sense, Common Law says tragic situation truly, but is the answer militarizing our police?
No, the answer is arming our citizens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, arm the world.
The police are clearly inadequate to the task, and this is what I was about to get to when Cameron walked in. I've said this before on the show, and Cameron and I aren't 100% on the same page with this. Cameron's got some family history with the police, but we've had some deep conversations about this. My general opinion of cops, generally, when I see a police officer, generally what I see is somebody who, when he had an opportunity to raise his hand and take an oath to the Constitution, to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what he did is he held his hand, he said those words, and then he went into the business of extorting citizens for revenue. By and large, that's the entire career of your average police officer. The vast majority of them never engage in preventing, solving, or even prosecuting legitimate criminals. Most of them write tickets for half a career and give up and go do something else and don't even make it to retirement. Whether it's they get tired of act, and in fairness, while they're doing that silly shit, they do occasionally run into legitimate criminals who just open fire on them for getting pulled over for a speeding ticket. And there's a large number of police officers will not get to the higher level where they might do some actual crime fighting because they give up before they get there. So generally, I don't have a whole lot of faith left in the police. I was a back the blue guy for a while, but then the more we saw as the summer of love continued, the police were all but throwing the Molotov cocktails with the BLM terrorists. They were standing down, watching, allowing it to happen. And when I say all but helping the terrorists throw the cocktails, there were several situations where BLM rioters came and assaulted people in public at restaurants, and the police showed up and arrested the victims, because it's easier to arrest the one victim and remove them from the situation than actually prosecute the criminals who are committing violence in the streets of the United States of America. And in New York, when they decided to paint the big Black Lives Matter mural at taxpayer expense on public roads, the police were deployed to defend the vandals who were vandalizing the public property with public dollars.
Yeah.
The publicly funded police were dispatched to defend those criminals, and none of them dissented. They didn't say, no, I swore an oath, and I'm not going to commit the crimes that I'm supposed to prevent from happening. So, the idea
fiery,
of the...
but mostly peaceful.
Right. So, I want to live in a country where the rule of law is the law of the land. We don't have that. And a large part of the reason we don't have that is because our police force has been turned into a revenue machine rather than a law enforcement organization.
That was actually Papa Sheepdog used to say, number one police reform that he would get on board with is to severely limit their ability to write you a magic piece of paper that says you owe the government $100.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that fundamentally transformed the public's relationship with the police. Even the prostitutes and the gang members and whatever, as long as you didn't do anything in front of the cop that had a beat that he used to walk, and like he would talk to the shop owners, and yes, even talk to the criminals and the prostitutes and make friends with these people. As soon as he became a revenue writing machine, a revenue generation machine, that entire process transformed entirely. So,
and then the other thing that I want to get to before we button up, like I said, we've got, and well, now it's updated, so I don't have Keith Oberman pulled up, but basically a bunch of the lefties on Twitter are going on about what cowards the police are. They're pointing out that these officers just stood around for 40 minutes to an hour while this killer rampaged through the school murdering people. Paul asks the question, arm the teachers? 100% yes, arm the teachers.
Arm everybody.
But more importantly, stop trusting your children to public schools. Well, the government is inadequate to the task of educating, defending, or even feeding your children. They cannot be trusted and should not be trusted. Raise your damn kids. It's not that hard to love your kids.
Well, look, and here's the thing. So many times they'll go, oh, my God, you want to arm the teachers? Why would you do that? Be like, look, we already trust teachers with this super venerated job where, like, teachers are just the greatest and most magical thing ever because they're shaping the lives of the youth.
Right. If a teacher can be trusted to operate an EpiPen, they can be trusted to operate an AR-15.
See, that's where I was going. But we don't just trust them with the education. We trust them with emergency medical procedures. We trust them with fire drills, earthquake drills. We even trust them with overnight field trips. You want to talk about a dangerous situation? Have 3 adults looking after 30 kids.
Right.
Okay? And we trust them with all that, but we don't trust a small number of teachers, and we wouldn't make it compulsory. If you don't want to carry a gun, don't carry a gun. That's how rights work. But I bet if you knew for a fact that 10-20% of the adults inside this building are packing, and they will mow you down if you hurt a single student on that campus, there'd be no more school shootings. Because, hey, when was the last time there was a mass shooting at a police station? Or how about a hunting club? Well, it doesn't happen in those places. No. Like the shitburger that shot up the grocery store in Buffalo. It was in his manifesto. He drove hours out of his way to go to that grocery store because he knew he would encounter little armed resistance. So, you want to say cops are cowards? You know what? Fine. I will restate my position on feminism. If you call yourself a feminist and you don't carry a gun, you're not really a feminist.
You're a liar. And then the other piece of this, the argument that the left is screaming out now with the whole cowards hashtag thing, they're decrying these officers for being cowards, for not entering the building. Every mass shooting ends, with the very rare exception that the shooter surrenders. A mass shooting, an active shooter, ends when a gun ends the fight. Either the shooter shoots himself or a good guy with a gun puts him down. Now, you lefties out there, you want that good guy with a gun to be at your beck and call. You want him to be waiting on the other end of the phone to be deployed when you need him. But, the adage, the bumper sticker, when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
God, your dad, if you haven't given top comment yet, he gets it.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that desk. And Sergeant Major, I always had a problem with that. We had pretty much gotten over the duck and cover nuclear safety thing by the time I was there, but we discussed it. We talked about it. It came up. Teachers taught me about nuclear bomb safety. That's right. Government agents taught you that hiding under your desk would protect you from nuclear fallout. And let me tell you what my problem with that is. I can't stand up out of one of those desks without taking it with me, let alone climb under the son of a bitch.
So yeah, that was funny. Honestly, with the whole cops are cowards thing, like, that's great. Okay, fair point. Sure. But you don't actually want to solve the problem. The discussion that the left is really not ready to have, and this is my position on this, okay? Because you pointed this out earlier in the week, there is a huge commonality in almost all of these, very rare exceptions, almost all of these mass shooters have...
Wait, play this game with me. Is it that they're male?
They're male.
But is that what you were going to say? Ooh. Were you going to say that they were fatherless?
As a matter of fact. Okay, seriously.
SSRI?
Maybe.
Commies?
Well, yes, they're typically leftists, but I think if you're a leftist and you have daddy issues, those things probably go hand in hand.
They are the same.
Yes. Okay. Right. So
yeah, daddy issues turn little girls into strippers and little boys into little girls.
Yes, fantastic. All right. Really, Congress wants to pass a law that will cut down on mass shootings? Fine. Nationwide 50-50 parenting laws. Force the family courts to reform. Don't make a man potentially become a fucking slave just for doing the right thing and getting married and having a baby.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, okay, so I hadn't intended to talk about the abortion rights thing, but one of the rebuttals that I keep seeing from lefties, especially lefty women, on the abortion thing is they keep screaming, "Well, how about this? How about we make the men pay for the baby?" And we're all over here like, your terms are acceptable.
In fact, not only are your terms acceptable, but
That's
they're already the
what
lay of the
happens.
land.
Here's a thought. If we're going to allow women to just murder their children willy-nilly because it's more convenient and less expensive, then why doesn't the father get the same choice?
Because it's murder?
Oh! All right. And if you're not going to let your baby daddy come see your baby, no checky. He's involved or he's not.
Yeah, no ticky, no washi.
Now, I'm not a fair guy. Listen, son, if you threw that bun in the oven, you got to pay that freight. But that should come with certain rights. And if a mommy's going to be allowed to deny that daddy the rights that should come with the responsibility that he has assumed by throwing that bun in the oven, then she should also be bereft of the privileges attached to the denial of those rights because she has chosen to assume the responsibility. It's not complicated. It's complex.
I don't even really think it's that complex. Kids need a mother and a father.
Correct.
You show me somebody with severe issues, and I will show you somebody 4 out of 5 times that had a broken family life.
Yep.
I mean, because you need both. See, it's the whole thing. We're like, women, they nurture and they protect, and then dads are the ones that toss the baby up in the air and catch him because it makes them laugh. Takes a little bit of both. It really does.
And you need somebody around who's willing to not interrupt them while they're skateboarding.
Right. Not a lot of male Karens, are there? We're getting there, but not yet. Yeah. You know what the male Karen is? Keith. Just ask Keith Olbermann.
Oh. All right. That's all we've got time for this morning. You guys have been great. Thanks for watching.
Real quick, Rob, I love your avatar. Come back. You've made a fascinating point. I wish you'd have made it earlier. But he says the left needs everything to be complex. Yes. The inability to utilize critical thinking. We're at the end of our show, so we're going to button up. But come back. Bring some high-value comments like that, and we'll incorporate them into the show.
Teach, crit, thinking. That's, and yeah, the left has decided to replace critical thinking with critical theory. So, Rob, if you're not getting the notification, we go live at 7:30-ish every morning, every weekday morning. So, and that's Eastern Standard Time. So, we will see you, hopefully, tomorrow morning at 7:30 for Firearms Friday. So, if you don't get the notification, just pop over to the Brushfire Mind on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, Rumble, and a bunch of Korean joints too. But grab those and we'll see you there. Trish says it's 5:30 here, so that's over in the middle of the country. And if you're all the way over on the left coast where Paul hides, then it's 4:30 there, I believe. So y'all be safe. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.